Welcome back, everyone, to GNR 3. Today we have something extra special for you. An exclusive interview with the one, the only, Angel. Famed android from Vault 101. Some of you may know her as the Lone Wanderer, or as the former Supreme Commander of the Terran Starship Command. Welcome.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate you doing this on such short notice.
Not at all. We've been trying to book you since we started doing interviews, but you were always quite busy, even before you disappeared.
That is true.
After numerous complaints of only talking about your occasional encounters with Riley's Rangers, Three Dog did eventually get around to spreading word of your other exploits.
Took him long enough.
Yes. While there is much not known, what strikes us as curious is what happened to you after stepping down from the TSC about a year ago. Your presence was well known, but it seems like everyone has a different story. Some even suggest you saved the world.
Oh, I did.
Excuse me?
There was an alien virus that might have become a deadly pandemic, but some friends and I neutralized it before it spread beyond patient zero.
Oh, goodness. Well, let's get down to it then. What happened after you stepped down and did that? And how did it lead you to the current state of affairs?
Oh, well, honestly, I felt the TSC was a mistake. I realized that while I could step down, the beast I had created would continue forward. It was during my time dealing with that virus that I really reflected on my mistakes, and I had an epiphany. I could at least mitigate the harm with bottom-up power structures.
You really think the TSC was a mistake? You, the founding commander?
It's a bit complicated, but yes. See, I don't really talk about it much, but I've kind of got two of me in my head here.
What do you mean?
It's a long story, but let's just say that my entire time in the TSC was defined by an internal conflict between the desire to deconstruct bigger threats and the risk of constructing one.
What was that internal conflict like?
Well, like this. 101, no matter how hard you try, you can't be a good empress. It's just not going to work. Well, what was all that shit you used to say about the dictatorship of the proletariat, huh, 18? We're not supposed to take that literally. Oh, come on, the she once had an emperor. The TSC can decentralize after me. And it went on, at least for a while.
What made you change your mind?
I think it was Poseidonus. It was just so much. So opulent. The military I made, I justified due to a greater threat, but to what could I blame making a new upper class? The council wouldn't budge, and I just couldn't do anything. If I can't help people, what's the point? I packed my things and announced my successor. I think she'll do a better job than I did.
And that's when you started speaking all over the capital about building the autonomous zone? Let's dig into that.
All right, so if the TSC was a mistake, how could it be fixed? I became an advocate for direct democracy and a decentralized cooperation across the capital. For the longest time, I thought it couldn't happen because the people here suffer from a strong delusion of capitalist realism. The world literally ended before capitalism did. So, moving beyond the petty need for caps, that's the long game. But that didn't mean autonomy had to be thrown out altogether, and that's what I dedicated myself to doing. I used my status as the founder of the TSC, a former knight of the Capital chapter of the Brotherhood, and just the general goodwill I'd received from my time as the Lone Wanderer to rally the people of the Capital to organize the towns into a sort of federation. And after many meetings and elections, we managed to go further, taking inspiration from the She Alliance that was destroyed long ago. It took about half a year, but we managed to fucking do it.
Yes, the autonomous region of the capital, often shorthand to the Capital Alliance. Why don't you tell us more about that? Could be a helpful primer for young ones emerging from the caves of little lamplight into the world of politics.
Sure. It was a similar system where each community could assign a delegate. Unlike traditional representatives, the delegates just relay the democratic wishes of the people and don't hold any power. And the communities with larger populations naturally have more votes. There were some structural compromises with the TSC and BOS, but we managed to include communities to represent their people. Ideally, the Capital Alliance will function as sufficient counterbalance to those hierarchies. Time will tell, but it's a huge improvement from when I left the vault. Rivet City and the BOS manage Project Purity for water distribution, as the operation is within their communities, but they are now subject to municipal ordinances to ensure the water makes it to the entire region, with labor volunteered as needed. What do you know? Since water has an inelastic demand, a market was not only unnecessary, but would have been disastrous. While water is the capital's most notorious resource, other types of distribution, like food and labor, were often done, but we had yet to fully escape market forces, unfortunately.
What do you have to say about the rumors that you were responsible for the deaths of Squire Maxon and Scribe Bigsley? Both happened around the same time, and you were spotted near both.
Enough evidence has come to light on the Bigsley situation that I don't think I need to speak on it.
That's all you have to say?
The answer is no, but I will say this. Someone who sabotages Project Purity is little better than the Enclave in my eyes.
And what of Maxon?
Don't you dare accuse me of killing a child. Got it?
Yes, my apologies. Let's get back to talk about the capital. Would you tell us your thoughts on the communities that were recognized?
Well, first, there's the people of the TSC. While the TSC continued to exist as a state power in the sky, their people in our region still had the chance to vote on issues pertinent to their home in the capital. Most of my TSC colleagues were high-ranking and don't come to visit often, like Elliot and Hoshiro. I hear Sally has some big ideas to reform the TSC. I wish her luck. The people of the Capital BOS are in a similar situation, except their power structure is contained within our region. Elder Lyons passed away, leaving the mantle to his daughter, Sarah, but she's been willing to compromise with us, fortunately. She's been willing to purge the more reactionary elements from the organization, unlike her father. Star Paladin Cross serves her loyally, and I hear Mavis was promoted tonight. Good for her. And then there were the communities aligned with the TSC, who had originally accepted alliances when the TSC revealed itself. Rivet City was the big one, as their experience coordinating with the BOS on Project Purity had built up many years of resentment, and the TSC in a certain way functioned as a mediator until the water distribution problems were properly addressed. The Rivet City Council's days were numbered, at least in their former incarnation, and many of the members stocked up on golden parachutes before the end. Jesse and Slasher returned there, along with Paulson, who preferred the waste over the sterility of space. Meanwhile, Mortar became a guard for Project Purity. Tenpenny Tower's human residents welcomed the TSC easily, and enough of the ghoul residents were on board that the alliance remained intact. Some bigotry still festers there among the older residents, but with an integrated human ghoul community, mutant phobia is becoming rarer there over time, which is nice. Audrey, of course, moved there straight away to live her usual posh lifestyle, regardless of ghoulification.
Speaking of ghouls, though, what do you say of what happened in Underworld?
Right. So, Underworld's always been pretty anarchisty, refusing to have leaders in their society. Cool for them. And when Azrakal died, they weren't any more capitalistic than your average Wastelanders. I don't know of the details, but it seems there was some implicit pressure by Archangel for Underworld to join, and their people were conflicted on the matter. When the Capital Alliance was formed, we had to properly address the conflict between the Ghoul Independence Movement and the TSC, which argued it hadn't breached any agreements. So Underworld isn't directly allied with the TSC anymore, which is probably for the best. Griffin's still there, but he's moved on from water since it's free to them now. Sharon's back too, running the Ninth Circle bar.
Well, it was the biggest domestic issue since the Rivet City attack.
Certainly, the Ghouls of the Underworld were some of the biggest advocates for restructuring. They didn't trust me at first, but their aid was indispensable. But anyway...
Yes, sorry to interrupt. You were speaking of communities.
Yeah, let's see. The Lincolnites are set up at the Lincoln Memorial, not far from Underworld. Since Paradise Falls was leveled, slave refugees from both within and without the region often come to live there. Clover moved there, and she claims to listen to all of Hannibal's readings of Lincoln's speeches, but I suspect she just has a crush on him. Meanwhile, Big Town and Little Lamplight have become uncoupled when the region became safer to traverse without risk of raider and mutant attacks. But there would remain a cultural overlap. When Lamplighters started being escorted to any community they wanted upon adulthood, at first they went everywhere. But there's been a trend lately where many are choosing Big Town anyway. Lamplights remain the orphanage of the region, just with better food, and the kids can vote like anyone else. Oh, and I have a girlfriend named Bittercup who lives in Big Town and crafts the finest makeup. Oasis has opened up to the region much more, with the Treeminders even trading their natural bounties for technology and other supplies. Their worship of Harold has cemented into a religion after his passing, but the way of the Treeminder seems to have been humbled by his teachings and death. He's treated less as an ineffable god and more as a departed messiah. While Oasis cannot naturally spread, they are able to graft his tree seeds and transplant them into other communities to spread his gift in small, little ways at a time.
Harold's story is well known, truly a tragedy. You ever come into contact with one of his seeds?
Yeah. Anyway, dealing with the Republic of Dave was quite difficult. In part because they insisted on pretending to be a nation, despite not being able to match the BOS nor TSC in power, and in part because Dave was dead. The First Lady, Rosie, and the second in command, Bob, both wanted to claim power. We managed to get Bob to abdicate his claim by naming the town after him. He was only in it for the fame, though I also had to pay him off. Whatever. The town of Bob, with its leader crisis averted, managed to surprisingly slide into direct democracy quite easily. Shit, can't believe I haven't mentioned Megaton yet, my old home. Well, since Megaton Towers was established, its population rivals Rivet City, and the town's pretty welcoming of the poor and downtrodden, so I'm proud of how it turned out and what the former mayor has done. The children of Adam can be problematic, but they're not radical by religious standards, and Gob and Nova's saloon is quite the attraction. Bob and Tim still live there.
Is that all you want to say? You don't have any more to add about the former mayor? The current delegate for Megaton? The founder of the Craterside Co-op? Your wife?
Yes. Well, it's no secret she's been doing well for herself.
People used to see you two together all the time. What happened?
I wasn't a great mother. I got involved in some serious stuff, and it was dangerous. I didn't intend to be gone for long, but things weren't the same between Moira and I ever again. She originally let me visit her and see the kids, Brian, Penny, Joseph, but after the TSC-BOS war, she won't even let me see them anymore. Says I'm a bad influence.
Does it hurt to hear that from such a renowned figure?
Is that a real fucking question? Of course it does, asshole.
Sorry if that...
No, I'm sorry, just... I don't want to talk about it anymore. I've accepted she doesn't want me around, and I've already said goodbye to Bittercup and my fuck buddies. Let me just continue with the communities.
Alright.
So I spent most of my downtime in Arafu, repairing the junk bots when they need it, or having some adult playtime with Malika or Mary when they're up for it. The community still has close ties to the family, you know, the vampire community, and it's been great to see them branching out. For example, Arafu trades regularly with Megaton since Megaton Towers were made, as both communities have to deal with overpass repairs. Then there's the community of East Anacostia. While they had once a fair amount of crime and violence, since the slaver ring was taken out, it's been a much safer refuge for aliens and some people considered strange even by Megaton standards.
Still can't believe that aliens are real, not to even mention that some are neighbors.
Honestly, it was surprising to me how strong femininity could be found among them, because some of them were pretty hot, though they couldn't match the talent of the sex workers in the market. I hear Esmeralda has a popular name for herself, and she's even taught Angelina a thing or two. Speaking of brothels, Canterbury Commons is certainly one of the most bustling and productive communities, though their adherence to a capitalist mindset made them one of the last communities to get on board with the Capital Alliance. Fortunately, they eventually got with the program when they realized there were only so many caps to go around in a region where people's base needs were met. Still, the market survives. Grieger runs Craterside, Larry runs Lollipops, Uncle Ro runs the Caravans, Sergeant RL3 even runs the Self-Defense Force now. Craterside Enterprises eventually reformed into a co-op, and when that happened, I managed to leverage my position against Larry to turn Lollipops into one as well. Not much changed on the surface because most of the revenue was still going to De Leon research, but now it was because the workers agreed to it, rather than Larry just decreeing it. Larry put up a fuss, but Malibu, Zen, and the sex workers backed our play. With the two largest companies in the capital turned to cooperatives, wasn't long before Lollipop's competitors, the only other two sex businesses in the region, the Clarabella and the East River Market, reformed similarly, or else the workers threatened to move.
I hear the search for a De Leon cure is going well.
Oh yeah, between all the funding they're getting, plus the samples of modified FEV and alien compounds I gave them, Dr. Duke Mauser says a cure should be coming any day now. Medical advancements have spun out from his research with coordination with the TSC, and many are considering him to be the spiritual successor to Dr. Lee.
That's great to hear. Please continue.
Sure, the TSC is proud to boast about reducing raiding incidents by about 90% soon after their reveal, but that was mostly out of fear. We still hadn't really solved the problem of raiders and super mutants attacking anyone and everyone. When we had gotten most of the communities on board with the Capital Alliance, we democratically agreed to offer an amnesty package to the raiders. It was controversial, promising to not take actions on their past crimes in exchange for covering their base needs just like anyone else in the region, but it worked. As much as some of the folks in Tenpenny Tower and Rivet City complained, addressing the raiders' squalid conditions was the best thing for peace. Some raiders chose to leave the region altogether, but the ones that remained constitute their own punkish community. The super mutants were a more difficult problem, however. People like Lee, Master, and Crux showed that super mutants could have complexity and intelligence, but it's just an unfortunate truth that most of the Vault 87 strain are very violent and mentally challenged in some way. With the help of the BOS, we provided a united front that managed to push the majority of the super mutants back to Vault 87, where the door was sealed shut. Still, they are people, and as such, Vault 87 has been deemed a dependent community, where the residents aren't rationally capable of voting for themselves, but should be cared for regardless. Fox believes the violence is socially learned, taught to them by eugenicists at Vault-Tec and reinforced through centuries of warfare. Fox and a few of his capable colleagues ferry food and education to the sequestered mutants of Vault 87 in the hopes that their violence can be reduced in due time. Vault 108 is in a similar situation, though the residents are less a threat to others and more themselves. One of the Gary clones, Gary X, fulfills the same role as Fox in this case, though he was less willing to do so. We had to pay him, as he's the only person the Garys listen to. Oh, and of course there's Vault 101, the most functioning vault in the region. Amada was a good leader and saw the opportunity to join the Alliance and neuter her security force, though I did have to have a long talk with her to convince her. It got a little heated, but Alice, Brisa, and Butch had my back, and, well, I may have invoked Amanda's passing in the argument, but she acquiesced. I know Amanda would be ashamed of what I did in the TSC, but I like to think she'd be proud of the Alliance. If nothing else, perhaps I did right by Vault 101.
What do you have to say about the allegations that the AI registry is discriminatory?
Well, it is. That's the point.
Excuse me?
Don't play dumb. I've explained this before. These artificial superintelligences deserve to be respected as autonomous beings, but their cognitive abilities are literally superhuman, which makes them inherently a hierarchical threat. So it's about leveling that power imbalance. While we should consider them people, we must be vigilant that they not abuse their mental and technological faculties to cause harm to the rest of us. Besides, there's only 3 of them in the entire region. There's Blue Queen, who manages most of the systems in Vault 101, and there's Mantis, who I carry on the Pip-Boy on my wrist, plus there's Margot in the Presidential Metro, one of the smaller communities of our alliance. Some debate whether the sentry bots, robo-brains, protectrons, and assassin droids there are sapient, but they act independently. The question is whether they have free will separate from Margot or are merely her vessels. I lean towards the former, but I'm not sure we can ever really know. Besides, her cooperation has been invaluable for use of the railroad, even if we do have to play her game of pretending that every living person is a reincarnation of the same Colombian Commonwealth senator.
I always thought it was strange the passes to get through the metro were just reprintings of that man's ID card.
Anyway, the last community, Wastelanders, is basically a catch-all for everyone else in all the towns that only have like 3 people in them.
What of the factions that didn't work out or become communities?
There's only 3, right? The Brotherhood outcasts were quite angry that the Capital BOS wasn't going back to their roots, and when the war with the Western BOS happened, they finally gave up, packed their bags, and left the capital to find technology elsewhere and presumably reconnect with the West eventually. Honestly, good riddance. Then there's the Talon Company, and yeah, they're dead or gone. And there's that community of robo-gnomes that the TSC drove out because they were slavers. Now, that's not to say the outcasts are entirely gone. Many stuck around on Maddox Island, and when their superiors at Fort Independence packed up and left, those that stayed rebranded themselves as yet another splinter of the Lost Cause diehards, the outcasts.
Speaking of Maddox Island, you have been missing from the capital for the last half year or so. Reports were that you were on Maddox Island since restructuring was well underway. Is that true?
Yep, that's where I was. Once the ball was rolling here, things were being done democratically. It wasn't necessary for me to be here, especially once I got the call from Jimmy.
Oh, please, do tell.
Maddox Island, as you may be aware, has its own federated government. Not quite the same as ours, called the Maddox Accord, and they are some of our closer outer allies. It began as an uneasy ceasefire upon opening the Rocky Cape Bank, but blossomed into full cooperation when the treasure turned out to be more complex than mere caps or gold. The member factions included the outcasts, as already mentioned, but also a detachment of the Capital BOS that reports and coordinates with the Citadel here in the capital. There's also the Newman Patriots, a former branch of the Enclave that finally rebranded themselves in the same way the TSC did, though they still appealed to conservative American aesthetics. The other member factions are the Pirates, Meridaport, Flackland, and Vault 89. Meridaport and Flackland are pretty tight, but Flackland residents still hold much resentment for the former enslavement to the pirates, even if they were eventually released. However, the special thing about the Maddox Accord is that it houses the largest community of all, and that is the Maddox simulation, a fully functioning simulation of the pre-war world, frozen in time, with billions of virtual people inside it, along with a handful of pre-war VIPs that survived and ruled it from within their VR pods. Different factions have different opinions on the virtual people within the simulation, but all agree they have some moral worth. In my opinion, they're still sentient and are completely subject to the whims of the most powerful pre-war maniacs that launched the nukes that ended their world.
Wow. Well, that makes sense. So, what? You went to fight the good fight?
Yes, in a manner of speaking. Jimmy told me he had finally made progress jailbreaking into the simulation, despite the VR pods being locked. He could plug someone else into the simulation, but since there were no extra pods, it would need to be someone who could go without food or water for an extended period of time.
Ah, and that's where you came in.
Exactly. My core would be enough to keep me alive. I needed a special chip in my head, though, but fortunately the scribes had managed to salvage the one found on President Shit's skeleton. I installed it, and they plugged me into the simulation. My mission the Accord gave me was twofold. One, they wanted to put the VIPs on trial for war crimes against humanity, but extracting them from the simulation would not be possible, and so their verdict was decided without them present, and I would be the executioner. 2, I was given a list of questions to answer, whether I could do it via recon or by interrogating them when I found them.
What kind of questions were they?
Most of them were scientific or technological in nature, trying to learn facts of the pre-war world lost to history, but some of them were quite political. The Patriots in particular had some strange questions about political leaders and factions in high offices at the time of the war.
Were you successful?
I wasn't able to answer every question, as the simulation had several alterations from reality, but I got the majority of them.
And the VIPs?
It took 6 months. I didn't have to try too hard to find them. It was clear which powerful people were virtual stand-ins and which ones were really calling the shots, living in their hedonistic utopia. They weren't subtle. Most of them were in America, though a few targets I had to go all the way to the UK or China to hunt down. It was strange adjusting to living in the pre-war world, like a lucid dream, with both happy people and miserable people slaving away at their jobs. I had a typical human form to not blow my cover, often working cover jobs by day, utilizing what I'd learned of their world, and setting up sniper rifles and mobile turrets by night, utilizing what I had learned in the post-apocalypse. I got it done. Half of them never even saw it coming.
Wow. What happened next?
The pods opened, and members of the Accord started coming in to help me out. Eventually, we announced ourselves to their world, and with admin privileges, we were seen as gods. The Maddox Accord explained their situation and promised to protect them from the outside, and I insisted that their autonomy would be preserved. They still have nations, but last I checked in on them, there were uprisings all over the place. After all, what authority did these virtual nations have on them now that the VIPs were gone?
Did you limit your targets to just the VIPs, or did you take out some of the virtual heads of state as well?
No comment. Anyway, I returned here a few weeks ago and have been catching up with the state of things. A lot calmer than when I had last been here. Say, what's been going on with our outer allies since I've been gone?
I mean, I'm meant to be doing the interview.
Oh, come on. I know war with the Western BOS never came, thank God. What else has been up?
Oh, well, the BOS still occupies Adams Air Force Base, and the TSE runs the Olympus in Poseidonis.
Oh, I know that.
Did you hear about the situation in Vienna Falls?
No, I didn't.
Well, that ancient teleporter in East Anacostia that goes to Vienna Falls was made public, and some of the more desolate and adventurous wastelanders have decided to travel there to make new lives for themselves. Even Nadine went there to go exploring in the waters to figure out where exactly that place is.
Oh, that'd be a fun adventure for some lucky guy. Oh, how's the pit doing?
Pretty well. They're more productive than ever, ironically enough, now that people aren't dying. Yet another testament to Dr. Mauser's brilliance. I suppose the only other outer ally would be Point Lookout.
Oh yeah, I stopped to see them. They're pretty divided between the swamp folk and the local natives, but Margaret, Kenny, and Doc Otis have brokered some peace between the two. Did Nadine give her ship to someone?
I think so, but anyway, that's the allies.
Yeah, there's the Underground Railroad in Alton, but that's too far away. What about national politics?
As you mentioned, the Western Brotherhood has been very quiet. There is the latest incarnation of Russia, though, the RCSN, one of the TSC's allies and our ally by proxy.
Oh no, what are they doing?
They're at war with the Fourth Reich.
Oh, good.
With all due respect, Angel, I'm supposed to be the one asking the questions.
Okay, I'm sorry. Please continue.
It's fine. I only have 2 left. First, I wanted to ask you about Moira's most recent book, The Dream World Survival Guide. While she is the primary author, she credits you as a contributor, yes? Did you work on this book?
Oh, that. Moira and I had talked about making that book someday as a follow-up to the Wasteland Survival Guide. The fact that a magical realm exists was pretty unnerving. We can't really prevent people succumbing to it, but we could at least warn people what to do if they woke up there. Moira was asking me about it during my visits before the TSC went public. I only knew she had published the book later when one of my subordinates had bought me a copy.
I admit in the existence of aliens, but I don't know about this one, Angel.
I'll gift you a free copy.
Thanks, but I'm good. We really should be wrapping this up. We went way over time.
Whoops, sorry.
Last question. Now that you have returned to the capital, what is next for you, Angel? There's not as many people to shoot or save these days, you know.
Well, now that you mention it, there's a rogue band of super mutants in eastern DC, just outside the region, that have taken over an underground train station.
A metro, what's new?
And that's what I thought at first, but Mantis told me that he detected evidence that at least one of the trains might still work. The one on the track that leads to Vegas.
Vegas?
Yeah, it's far, but honestly, I've heard more about that place than any other. I admit to being somewhat curious. I was thinking maybe I'd catch a ride. There's pictures from Little Lamplight, here Megaton, Point Lookout, DC, Rivet City, and is that Vegas?
Vegas has grown quite popular these days. I've heard Civilian Affairs has plans to establish an embassy in the Strip.
Oh, that's good. I'd really like to visit Vegas someday.
I will leave the Capital Wasteland now. It is said there is yet a greater beast that roams the sands surrounding the western settlement of New Vegas. Oh, this is quite a scoop. You're thinking of leaving the capital after all you've done.
I am, and I am curious, but honestly, I've made many mistakes with the TSC, with the BOS, with Moira, and my kids. People recognize me all the time, and I feel like I'm supposed to smile, but the few people I really want to recognize me don't want to see it anymore. Sorry, I know I still got friends, but it's hard to keep seeing everyone being happy but me.
What about your children?
I'm not going to fight, Moira. I messed up. I've sent them all the supplies and caps I have, and they've known how to reach me. I have to find something else to live for.
So, Vegas.
I've got some roots out west. They might not all be dead. Besides, I could go a bit further west and check on the Western BOS. It's unsettling to have a declaration of war followed by utter silence.
Is that really the reason?
It's a reason. I want a chance to start over. I've tried to fix my mistakes. I really have. But at some point you have to move on. And Vegas seems like the perfect chance to do that.
Well, thank you for the chance to interview you before you go. I think I can speak for most of us here in the capital that you did improve things here quite a bit, mistakes and all.
Thank you. Goodbye. Alright, gotta find that rail station. Should be somewhere to it around here. Alright, this is where Mantis told me to go. I know there are some super mutants held out here. I better be careful. There's the Supermans. Gonna have to put them down. Sorry. More super mutants. Wait, none of these go to Vegas? Might as well take a look around. Shit, I think I need to turn the power on to open those doors. There's gotta be some kind of reactor or something that powers this place. This looks like maintenance, so power should be somewhere here.
Union Station Maintenance Terminal messages. 2. T. Dalton. That's great, Tom. She'll be happy to hear that. 2. J. McGuire. My husband is out of town next weekend. Can't wait to see you. XOXO. Notice to all employees. We will be running a drill on Sunday, October 24th regarding security systems and fast response. All personnel on normal shifts should be aware that this is a drill. Head of Security, Perry Newman. Urgent notice. Some senators just burst into my office here and said that the bombs have started to fall. They've demanded that I take them to shelter, so I'm taking them down to the fallout shelter on the emergency reactor sublevel for safety. If anyone finds this, come get us when this is all over.
More dead people from long ago. This isn't useful. No more turrets. Oh, fuck. Ghouls. Okay, this looks like it controls the reactor. Shit. Not primed. Maybe I need something to start it up? Yeah, looks like I need some kind of goo. I could jury rig this, though. Okay. I think that'll work. Let me try starting it up again. Okay, sounds like it worked. Okay, now I think I can just flip those breakers and everything should start working again. Fucking rad roaches. Alright, gotta get up to where the breakers are. That's one down. Gotta flip the rest of them. Okay, 2 down.
Gonna
Oh,
splatter
shit.
your brains!
More super mutants. Oh, fucking. Okay, 3rd one. This one was easy. Okay, that should power everything up. It's on! It's updating. Come on, Vegas, Vegas, Vegas. Las Vegas. Number 7777. It's the only one that's not destroyed or delayed. Or late. Oh, those blast doors opened up. Alright, I might actually need a ticket if the trade is working properly. I think this is the train. It's working. It's definitely looks beat up, but hopefully it'll make it. I guess I'll buy a ticket. I can hack the thing to give me one. Okay, I got the ticket. If it's an automated system, it should see me as a passenger and let me on. Oh, okay. Looks like it's working. I can't believe I'm gonna go to Vegas. It's gonna be so much fun. And it's just the first step in my journey, too.
This train leads to New Vegas. Your ticket is one way only. You will not be able to return without purchasing another ticket. Are you sure you wish to travel to New Vegas? Travel to New Vegas.
Okay, so we have several things to talk about after our last episode of Fallout 3. We were getting things ready for our new start in New Vegas, and we wanted to add the Frontier because that had come out. But we ran into an issue that we like to call the Marshiku cap.
Yeah, and I mean, like, look at the footage here. Like, I mean, Good Springs is working. Like, going to the Mojave is working fine. That's not exactly the problem. But we did run into this other problem, and I'm going to expound a bit on the details just so that you're all aware, because we wanted to be transparent about this, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, there's an issue with save files. People say they get, unwieldy, they can get unstable as they get bigger and bigger. But it usually never really goes beyond that when they're talking about it. It just gets bad a bit. There are some more detailed breakdowns that can cause issues, but we looked into them, and it's not really what we're experiencing. Like a save bloat or a leak or whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
When we put in the Frontier, we discovered that there's a maximum amount of content that can be loaded into the game and the save at the same time. And they bounce off of each other. It's not clear exactly how it's calculated. For example, we found out that removing mods would make the game load better, and we found out that going to an earlier save would make the game load better. These two things conflated in some way. We decided to call this the Marshaku Cap. We have made a new version of our guide for Cinemodded Fallout, and this one removes TTW in favor of the Frontier. Because adding the Frontier added this problem, but we didn't want to just not play with this giant, huge world mod, in part because, despite all the criticism, the Frontier might actually be better than Fallout 3, at least in some respects.
At least story-wise.
That's quite an insult, Kira. And anyway, so we've swapped TTW for the Frontier because, quite frankly, TTW was the big bottleneck. All the Fallout 3 stuff with the DLC and the integration, that was the heaviest thing on our game. So with the Marshaku Cap, it just really wasn't something we could overcome. So we had to scale our game back. But we were able to scale it back enough by removing all the Fallout 3 stuff that we're able to add the Frontier in. We took the opportunity to also remove any mods that we don't need anymore and add mods that didn't exist at the time or weren't compatible with TTW. Like we have WMX now, for example.
Yes.
So yeah, we just want to be transparent. We will have to transfer our save information over to a new save and start over. For anyone that's modding and wants advice, the thing is, you can have TTW, you can have the Frontier, and you can have a ton of content mods. For our sakes, we can group New California in there, because New California, just quite frankly, isn't that big. The problem is you can't really have them all at the same time. You can have TTW and the Frontier. You can have New California there too. But if you have a whole bunch of giant quest mods and like texture replacers and just overhauling your game, and you have the Frontier, we think that will go fine. But TTW and the Frontier, no, you can't. It will straight up crash in places like Novak or the Air Force Base or the Citadel Laboratory.
Yeah, it's just too much.
Yeah, like the game just gets mad. It's not even an out-of-memory error. It's specific with the save.
Yes, because if you've been playing for a while, it's way more likely to crash. If you start a new game, everything will seem to work at first.
Right, and so part of the problem was using a ton of mods in TTW but not the Frontier. We were worried that while we were fine for now, our issues would only grow and grow and grow, and that eventually we'd experience the Marshaku Cap. So we're hoping with this reduction that will be reduced so far that even playing for hundreds of more hours, we will not come across the Marshaku Cap. And even if we do, our new install is made in such a way that we can turn the Frontier off when we're done playing it.
Yes, and this also means with us starting a new save, that should give us a lot of room to grow and to have a lot of information in there without experiencing this issue.
Yeah, so we just want to be transparent about that. Angel, the character, will still continue. We'll transfer the save information, and for roleplay purposes, she'll still remember everything from Fallout 3. We also will have the Fallout 3 weapons restoration mod to add some of that content back in, as well as some other mods here and there.
Yes, and we'll use the console to, make sure the stats and level and everything line up as much as possible.
You won't see any of that, and I mean it's a little cheaty, but we're doing it just because the game has kind of failed us here. We tried seeking out expert opinions, but a lot of them just didn't really have any idea. I feel like most people just haven't modded their games as much as we have.
Yeah, a lot of people just haven't gotten to this cap. Either they stop playing before it becomes an issue, or
they don't install as many mods.
Yeah, or they just don't install as many mods in the first place.
And there's so many things okay, is it a reference issue? Well, no, it couldn't be that because you need billions of that before it's an issue. Okay, well, could it be a plugin issue? It's well, no, we merge our mods, and besides, we have the plugin cap fixer, and oh, well, is it a RAM issue? It's well, no, it's not. So it's just, trust us, we know what we're talking about.
Yeah. We've done a lot of testing and research and stuff before we came to this conclusion of what we needed to do.
We also had a few announcements we wanted to make before we close this out.
We are definitely going to add a trigger warning for spiders going forward.
Yeah, we try to do the content warnings at the beginning of each episode, but we did not include spiders, and quite frankly, that was a mistake on our part.
Yes, it was, although to be fair, there weren't that many previously.
There was a spider faction in New California.
Yes.
Yeah, we should have done that.
Oh, right. I remember that.
So that's a mistake on our part. So on the screen, you'll see all the episodes where there should have been spider content warnings, just kind of like an add and post sort of situation. Mm-hmm. And we'll keep better track of that in the future, especially because the Frontier has a lot of spider stuff.
Yes, and there's also lots more spiders here in New Vegas than there were in Fallout 3, because the tarantulas and stuff spawn.
Monster mods, yeah.
Yeah, monster mods.
In addition, in our guide, we kind of wrote these little reviews of mods, and we were thinking of expanding on that and even, like, doing videos. Because we see some videos online, other mod reviewers, that'll do proper mod reviews, and we just kind of play our one big long game. We thought maybe that'd be a fun little distraction.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Especially since, it's still going to be a bit before we can do new episodes. Obviously, you're not aware of that because we've been releasing content this entire time.
Right, but we've been releasing it one episode per week instead of the usual 2 per week to kind of buy us time.
Yes, until we can, get more content.
Right. So hopefully when New Vegas comes out, that can be fixed and you'll start getting your 2 episodes again. Mm-hmm. But before the new Vegas episodes come out, we're going to release... our idea is that we're going to do a mod review, little like small video essay at the end of playing each big like area mod, and like a quest area, right? Mm-hmm. And we'll do that at the end of each time. But we've already done a bunch for Fallout 3, so we'll just go ahead and rapid fire all those out before we go to New Vegas.
Yeah. That way, we have all those reviews out and we can go forward making sure to review things in the future as we encounter them.
Yep. And quite frankly, I am really excited for New Vegas. Who's ready for 10 episodes in Good Springs?
Me.
All right. Bye.
Because there are so many dresses here in Good Springs.
Well, among other things, yes.
Dresses.
There's not that many dresses.
There's enough.
Okay. Well, we'll see you all, in the next episode, I guess, for you.
Yep.
Maybe a month or 2 for us, who knows?
Yeah. We record all this ahead of time, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.